Out in the American West, water isn't just some resource, it's everything. It's a lifeline. And right now, 2 states are locked in a massive legal battle over one of those lifelines, the South Platte River. And trust me, this is a fight that could reshape the future for millions of people. So take a look. This is the river at the heart of it all. It starts way up in the Colorado mountains, winds right through Denver, and then makes its way into the farmlands of Nebraska. For 100 years, there's been this kind of fragile peace over who gets how much water. Well, that peace, it's pretty much shattered. And yeah, the stakes here are incredibly high. Just listen to this quote from Colorado's Attorney General. Nebraska has now set in motion what is likely to be decades of litigation. Decades. That tells you everything you need to know. This is not some simple disagreement. Both sides are digging in their heels for a long, expensive fight. All right, so how did we even get here? Here's how we're going to break it all down for you. First, we'll get into the lawsuit itself. Then, we're going to rewind the clock to a century-old agreement that's at the heart of this thing. We'll also look at why this is all blowing up now. And finally, we'll ask the big question, what happens next? Okay, let's dive right in with the lawsuit itself. We're talking about a fight over nothing less than a future water supply, and Nebraska is not messing around. They are taking this conflict straight to the U.S. Supreme Court. The whole thing really centers on this one project, the Perkins County Canal. And get this, it's a massive $500 million project that Nebraska wants to build to pull water straight out of the South Platte before it even leaves Colorado. They're not just asking nicely either, they're suing for the right to build it. And Nebraska's legal claims, they are not holding back. They're basically saying that Colorado's growing cities are stealing their water supply. They argue this lack of water is absolutely crippling their agricultural economy. They're even accusing Colorado of actively blocking the canal's construction. And here's where it gets really real. Some landowners in Colorado have already received condemnation notices. Can you imagine getting a letter threatening to seize your property for another state's project? So to really understand why Nebraska believes it has the right to do any of this, we have to go back in time. The entire case hinges on a single document signed way back in 1923, the South Platte River Compact. This map here shows the river's journey. It starts high in the Colorado Rockies, flows right through the booming Denver metro area, and then crosses the border into Nebraska near this little town of Julesburg. And that spot right there at the state line is ground zero for this entire fight. That's where all the rules of this old compact kick in. So, this compact breaks the year down into 2 parts. In the summer, the irrigation season, Colorado has to let a certain amount of water flow downstream. But the real fight is over the off-season, from October to April. The deal gives Nebraska a right to a massive amount of winter water, but, and this is the 100-year-old catch, they only get that water if they build a canal inside Colorado to take it. For a century, they never built it. Now they want it. And this is where things get really legally tangled. It all comes down to a term you might have heard of, eminent domain. That's the power of a government to take private land for public use, as long as they pay for it. The wild part is, this 1923 compact seems to give Nebraska that power. But here's the central, unprecedented question for the Supreme Court. Can one state actually use eminent domain to seize land inside the borders of another state? So you gotta be asking yourself, right? If this deal has been on the books for 100 years, why is it all exploding right now? Well, the answer isn't in some dusty old law book. It's in the data. And the data shows a region under some incredible strain. Just look at this number, plus 70%. That's the potential population boom expected in the South Platte Basin by 2050. We're talking about going from about 3.8 million people to as many as 6.5 million. That is millions more people, all needing water from the same finite source. And of course, all that growth translates directly into a massive water shortage. This table basically lays out the scary math. Even in a business-as-usual scenario, the region is projected to be short almost 200,000 acre-feet of water every single year. For perspective, 1 acre-foot is enough water to cover a football field a foot deep. Now imagine that deficit more than doubling in a hot growth scenario. That is a massive shortfall. This bar chart really makes that potential crisis crystal clear. You see the gap for business as usual, and then look how it just balloons in the hot growth scenario, which combines that bigger population with a warmer, drier climate. That huge bar on the right, that is the future that has Nebraska so worried. So all of this brings us to a critical moment. What happens next? This lawsuit isn't just some legal squabble. It's forcing a fundamental choice on the entire region about how to manage a future where there just isn't enough water to go around. And really, there are 2 very different paths forward from here. Path 1 is all-out conflict. Nebraska builds its $500 million canal, and the states spend the next few decades fighting it out in court. Or there's Path 2, innovation. That's where both states could work together on smarter, more modern projects to conserve, store, and reuse the water they already have. In that second path, it isn't just some theory. Projects are already underway. Take this clever solution called Aquifer Storage and Recovery, or ASR. The idea is brilliant and simple. Instead of building huge new reservoirs that lose tons of water to evaporation, you take excess water during wet times and store it underground in natural aquifers. It's basically like creating a water savings account for when you need it most. An ASR is just one tool in a whole modern toolbox. There are a host of other strategies being explored. Advanced water recycling, smarter stream management, replacing thirsty lawns with water-efficient landscaping, and building strategic pipelines to move water where it's needed most efficiently. There are options, if they choose to use them. Which brings us to our final question. The legal battle will be fought by lawyers and decided by judges, sure, but whether it's through decades of litigation or the cost of massive new projects, when neighbors fight over a resource as essential as water, who ultimately pays the price? It's the taxpayers, the farmers, and future generations. That's a question worth thinking about.